A high-intensity interval training HITT-based running plan improves athletic performance by improving muscle power. Presented by Jeremey Bynum, Jacksonville State University. Purpose of research: to determine how triathletes are affected by a HITT-based running plan to see if it improves muscle power. This research selected 13 triathletes to form two groups, a control group and an experimental group. Pre-test and post-test were conducted with both groups to determine if the HITT-based running program improved the performance of the experimental group, also while expecting to see no change in the control group that continues their regular training programs without modification. Review of literature. Reference number 1. This article discussed reducing the amount of training combined with speed endurance training. This article was referenced in the one for the presentation because it looked at the results for decreasing training volume. Reference number 9. Injuries can be reduced by triathletes by incorporating the HITT-based running program as discussed in this article. Reference number 13. This article was important because it focused on endurance runners, and to be a great triathlete, endurance running is important. Hypotheses. The hypothesis is that a high-intensity interval training-based running program plan will improve athletic performance among triathletes by improving muscle power. Athletes normally train at a low intensity for endurance performance. This study is attempting to give reasons why athletes should incorporate HITT into their endurance training performances. The researchers wanted to see what the impact of the new training program would have on a group of athletes. The experiment looked at triathletes that had been competing and measured their muscle power before and after their experiment. Methodology. Materials. 16 male triathletes were selected to take part in this experiment. The ages range between 24 and 42 years old. Body mass was 74 plus or minus 5 kilograms. Height was 176 plus or minus 9 centimeters. Only 13 triathletes information was recorded because of illness during the intervention period. Coaches had to validate current performance status before testing began. Athletes were asked not to train intensely 2 days before testing to prevent the results being altered. The testing was a sprint distance triathlon race, 750-meter swimming, 20-kilometer cycling, and 5-kilometer running. Methodology. Experimental and control group. The experimental group and control group were assigned based on their performance in a sprint distance triathlon competition. Control group asked to maintain their current training routines. Experimental group modified running plans but maintained their swimming and cycling routines. The current training sessions that all participants were practicing was continuous moderate intensity sessions. The experimental group incorporated HITT into their running program. This was their only modification to training sessions. Methodology data. Here's a chart with all the data posted. This chart shows experimental and control group demographics. Methodology: steps for experiment. The HITT program included 3 to 4 sessions per week for 5 weeks. In the pre-test and post-test, participants performed jumping sets, squat jumps, and baseline values. These measurements were repeated 3 more times after each triathlon event: swimming, cycling, and running, to monitor the neuromuscular response during competition. The jumping sessions were recorded using the OptoGate system, which was previously used in similar studies. Using the same measurement system is good for comparability of results to other similar studies. The following slide shows the pre-test and post-test results for the swimming, cycling, and running exercises. Methodology: data. As expected, swimming and cycling times were the same for both the experimental and control group. This data shows the run time for the experimental group decreased in the post-test and increased in the pre-test for the control group. Data. Data shown is for the individuals in the experiment for pre-test and post-test results for both the experimental group and control group. Data. 5-week high-intensity intermediate training-based running program. Discussion. Results increased as expected. Overall race time for the experimental participants decreased for all 7 participants, while the control group's race time either increased or did not change. Comparing both the control group and experimental group, the participants were selected wisely because no significant differences were found in demographic data or body composition. The experimental group also improved swimming times after the post-test results were recorded. Discussion. The study is in agreement with similar previous studies and the same outcome was determined. HITT-based running programs can be used effectively to increase performance among athletes. Previous studies have looked at individual sports, unlike this study, which looked at running, swimming, and cycling, and seen improvement in 2 out of 3 sports. Psychological adaptations to the HITT period might be determinants of athletic performance improvements reported in the current study. The results showed that a 5-week HITT-based running plan improved vertical jumping capacity in triathletes, whereas triathletes continued training at low moderate intensity with high volumes did not experience changes in muscular performance variables. Conclusion. The hypothesis was correct. The triathletes' running times improved after the 5-week training program was implemented. This improvement is suggested to be due to improved neuromuscular characteristics that were transferred into improved muscle power and work economy. The effectiveness of a HITT-based running program, which not only causes improvements in muscular performance parameters and allows athletes to enhance their athletic performance in a competition, but also facilitates the reduction of a major risk factor for injury in triathletes such as weekly running distance.